Ukraine's Atacms strike wipes out major Russian training hub. Dozens of troops reported lost. In one of the most unexpected escalations of recent months, Ukraine has struck deep inside the Russian Federation with a precision attack that shattered a major military training hub and ignited multiple secondary explosions across the region. Russian civilians were the first to witness the unfolding chaos as bright ballistic trails streaked over Belgorod and Voronezh, triggering frantic air defense fire that failed to stop the incoming barrage. Within minutes, one of Russia's largest troop preparation centers lay in flames. Vehicles were destroyed, and reports of heavy casualties began circulating across Russian channels, as satellite imagery now confirms widespread damage to drone bases, ammunition depots, and airfields. Analysts warn that this single operation could reshape Russia's ability to reinforce the front. What Ukraine hit, how it managed to bypass layered Russian defenses, and what this means for the war's next phase. These are the questions driving today's urgent developments. Today, at the time indicated in the reports, Ukrainian forces carried out a deep strike operation inside the Russian Federation using Atacms, the army tactical missile system, in what became a major long-range attack in recent months. The operation unfolded without advance warning and immediately disrupted Russian military activity across several regions. Witness accounts, damage assessments, and early military analysis all pointed to a coordinated Ukrainian attempt to degrade Russia's training infrastructure, aviation support bases, ammunition reserves, and rear area logistics that feed frontline operations. The first indicators came not from the battlefield, but from Russian civilians. Residents in the Belgorod and Voronezh regions began uploading short videos of bright projectiles moving across the sky on a steep ballistic arc. The glow and shape were consistent with Atacms flight signatures, and the speed suggested that these were not drones or low-altitude cruise missiles. Several clips captured Russian air defense units firing interceptors in rapid sequence, leaving spiraling trails behind them. The hurried launches suggest radar operators detected multiple inbound objects without time to coordinate a salvo. Russian military channels reacted with confusion. Analysts debated whether Ukraine had unveiled a new long-range drone or attempted to modify an old ballistic system. Some insisted the objects resembled Atacms, but dismissed the idea due to the belief that the United States still restricted their use on Russian soil. As later confirmed by the Ukrainian General Staff, those restrictions had been lifted, and Atacms had indeed been launched at Russian military infrastructure. Russian authorities publicly claimed complete interception, but debris recovered inside Russia contradicted their statements. Images showed intact Atacms casings, without the fragmentation damage typically caused by successful interceptor strikes. Smoke trails above the Baltimore Air Base in Voronezh matched the dispersal pattern of the cluster munition variant of Atacms, indicating that the warheads were likely deployed at altitude. One of the most significant impacts occurred at the Pogonovo training ground, one of Russia's largest facilities for preparing troops before deployment to the Ukrainian front. At the time of the strike, Russian sources acknowledged a substantial number of personnel at the site, including newly mobilized units and trainees undergoing final evaluations. The cluster warhead detonation across the training areas likely caused heavy personnel losses. Early assessments circulating among Russian military commentators suggested heavy casualties. Figures remain unverified. Several barracks, equipment storage zones, and vehicle staging areas caught fire after the strike, and reports indicated that up to a dozen armored vehicles, trucks, and transport loaders were damaged or destroyed. Observers from the region reported widespread smoke throughout the night and secondary detonations, suggesting the presence of ammunition or fuel inside the compound. The strike on Pogonovo disrupted a facility essential to Russia's force rotation cycle. Because this training ground processes reinforcements destined for multiple axes of the front, its temporary loss will create delays in troop deployment schedules. From a strategic viewpoint, Ukraine's choice to target such a site reflects a broader shift toward attacking the force generation pipeline rather than focusing solely on active battlefield concentrations. If early reports of personnel losses are accurate, this single single attack may represent one of the most damaging strikes delivered against Russian manpower outside of frontline combat zones. Atacms, with its approximate range of 300 kilometers and roughly 200-kilogram warhead, provides Ukraine with an option more powerful than domestically produced long-range drones and considerably harder for Russian air defenses to intercept. The missile's ballistic arc forces Russian systems to track a high-speed, steep descent trajectory that many mid-range systems struggle to counter in time. Even occasional use compels Russia to disperse or withdraw air defense systems that were previously defending frontline positions. This diversion weakens coverage over active battlefields and increases the vulnerability of Russian ground forces to Ukrainian aircraft and long-range drone operators. From eastern Ukraine, Atacms can reach deep into Russia's support provinces, including Voronezh, Bryansk, Kursk, and Belgorod, regions that house ammunition depots, drone launch infrastructure, helicopter pads, aircraft shelters, fuel storage sites, and logistics centers moving supplies toward occupied Ukrainian territory. For Russia, this creates a dilemma: defend the front or defend the rear, but not both with equal density. Every S-300 or S-400 system pulled to protect interior regions reduces the protective umbrella shielding Russian frontline units. The strike occurred alongside a wider Ukrainian effort to disrupt Russian rear infrastructure across occupied Donetsk, Luhansk, and Crimea. At Donetsk airport, Ukrainian forces executed a coordinated operation using various drones, including long-range FPV-2 units, to hit a major Shahed drone storage facility. Satellite images later revealed the full extent of damage. One warehouse destroyed entirely, another significantly damaged, and debris scattered across a large radius. Ukrainian intelligence had spent months tracking the site, and the resulting explosions destroyed an estimated 1,000 assembled Shahed drones and roughly 1,500 additional warheads awaiting assembly. The loss deprives Russia of a significant portion of its drone strike capability, likely reducing its operational tempo for weeks. Elsewhere in occupied territory, footage from Makivka and areas of Donetsk city showed explosions that caused power outages and flickering lights across residential districts. These effects suggested strikes on energy infrastructure supporting Russian administrative and military hubs. In Horlivka, Ukrainian drones targeted a large ammunition depot that supplied Russian forces advancing toward Pokrovsk and Novohorodsk. Thick smoke and repeated detonations indicated that the site contained significant stores of artillery shells or rocket munitions. Analysts assessed significant ammunition losses. Quantities were not independently verified, with some suggesting losses equivalent to several days of supply for units operating on that axis. Farther north, strikes hit ammunition and fuel depots in Luhansk region, used to sustain Russian offensive operations in the area. The simultaneous destruction of explosive and fuel reserves carries a particular tactical impact because it interrupts both supply and mobility. Russian units in the vicinity, already stretched by continuous combat, will now face delays in replenishment and may reduce the frequency of their assaults as logistical lines recover. In Crimea, another important strike targeted the Kirovsky airfield, known to host Orion drone systems that provide reconnaissance and strike capabilities. Satellite images taken after the attack revealed 2 hangars destroyed, structural damage across the drone maintenance zone, and scorch marks near a helicopter landing area. The loss of these facilities reduces Russia's ability to conduct real-time surveillance of Ukrainian movements, forcing a heavier reliance on slower or less capable platforms. If several Orions were inside the destroyed hangars, Russia may have lost key assets that support precision-guided operations across southern Ukraine. Throughout these operations, Ukrainian planners demonstrated a pattern of targeting not only active combat assets, but also the infrastructure that sustains Russia's long-term ability to fight. This approach contrasts with earlier periods of the war, when strikes were heavily focused on troop concentrations and supply convoys near the front lines. The shift suggests that Ukraine, assisted by Allied intelligence and newly approved weapons, is now concentrating on deep rear degradation of Russian logistics, training pipelines, drone production chains, and energy networks. The cumulative effect of these strikes increases pressure on Russian commanders, who must now stretch limited air defense assets across a wider geographic area, while simultaneously maintaining their offensive efforts along multiple axes. The damage inflicted during this sequence of strikes also carries political implications. Russian commentators have already questioned how Atacms missiles penetrated regional defenses without interception. The visible presence of intact missile fragments inside Russia raises questions about official statements claiming successful air defense performance. Moreover, images of fires, secondary explosions, and large smoke plumes near Pogonovo and other targets contribute to a public perception of vulnerability inside Russia's interior regions. If early estimates of personnel and equipment losses at Pogonovo prove accurate, this strike may represent one of the most severe blows to Russia's training infrastructure since the start of the full-scale invasion, with up to 200 personnel affected and dozens of vehicles and structures damaged or lost. Overall, the renewed use of Atacms inside Russia signals a significant evolution in Ukraine's long-range precision capabilities. With its reach, destructive power, and difficulty of interception, the system is likely to prompt Russia to reassess the security of rear areas and the allocation of critical air defense units. The combination of Atacms strikes, drone operations, and targeted attacks on storage sites and airfields creates a layered pressure that complicates Russian logistics planning and slows reinforcement cycles. Each strike imposes new demands on a military machine already stretched across a 1,000-kilometer front line. As these operations continue, the central question grows sharper. With Ukrainian capabilities expanding and Russian defenses forced to cover a wider and wider territory, how long can the Russian command maintain its current operational pace before the strain on its rear infrastructure begins to affect its ability to sustain the war?